We're going to talk about statistics and specifically describing the attribute under investigation. When we describe the attribute, we're really talking about what is it that we're measuring? What are we looking at? That's an attribute. When we describe the attribute under investigation, we're looking at 4 specific things. The what is being measured? That is the attribute. How is it being measured? What is the means of measurement? And what is the unit of measure? And what is the number of observations? For example, take a look at the dot plot. And Randall asked his classmates how many siblings they had. He recorded their responses and he displayed them in this dot plot. So the attribute being measured, well, number of siblings. The means of measurement, it says in the context of the problem that he asked his classmates, so he did a verbal survey. The unit of measure, well, the unit of measure is they count just regular counting, so the counting numbers. And the number of observations, if you count each one of the dots in the dot plot, these here, if you just count them up, then you would get 24, and that's the number of observations. So there are 24 dots. Let's try this one. So we see a histogram here, and the problem states Martson Middle School held a walkathon on the school's quarter-mile track to raise money for a local charity. So that's what this data is displaying. The attribute being measured is the distance walked. How is it measured? Well, it would be measured, if you think about it in terms of context here, in the number of laps around the track that each participant completed. And 4 laps would be a mile. A typical track is a quarter mile. The unit of measure is in miles, and the number of observations. When reading a histogram, you look at the y-axis, which is the frequency, so that's the number of participants right here, up and down. And so you see 5, 15, 10, 20, 25, and 30. You add all that together, and you'll get 105 observations. And just one more. Alright, so the context of this data or dot plot is the day school principal, Mr. Herman, was charged with determining the need for a bus to transport students to and from school. He used an online map app to document the distance from each student's home address to school. So the attribute being measured is the distance from school. The means of measurement, what did he use? Well, in order to measure the distance from school, he took the address, as it says in the problem, or in the scenario. He took the address of each student, and he put it in an online map app, which calculated the distance from school to home. So he used an online map app. And the unit of measure is miles. And the number of observations, as we recall in a dot plot, we are just going to count up each one of these dots, and each one of these dots there happens to be 50. So the number of observations is 50. Okay, well that ends this very brief video on describing the attribute being measured in a distribution. Enjoy the activity.